welcome to the Real Estate Dads. Our guest today is Senate Eskridge, who was born and raised in Twin Falls, Idaho, and he's got a fantastic story as a father of 5 who at the age of 21 found himself with 4 kids and trying to figure out what to do next. And he has an amazing story about overcoming the odds to eventually having 847 units across the country, a successful real estate syndication business, and a fantastic home life that he's worked hard to keep. So, Senate, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, so welcome to the Real Estate Dads. We're so glad to have you on. And Senate, we've talked quite a bit, previously. And, I guess the biggest thing that we were talking about before we actually hit the record button here, you're a father of 5. And as you describe, I'll let you go into this, but you have all adults. And if you're willing, let's get the whole story. How'd you meet your wife? And what was the plan with kid number 1 all the way to kid number 5? And how has that journey started in regards to, what you were doing in life at kid number 1 and then up to now? Because that should cover also, I'll call it some of the work-life balance. I'm going to get you to talk a lot, and also hopefully some great realizations of where you are now, because you also, how many units total do you have?
847.
847, which is just fantastic. And let's get into that story.
Yeah. Well, my story, there's a lot of twists and turns, and I'm going to talk about a few things today that I haven't talked a lot of detail with people. Not a lot of people know. So the first thing is, you say I have 5 adult children, right? The youngest is 19. Actually, he'll be 20 in like a week. But my wife and I have only been together 17 years.
Okay.
So what that means is that I had a practice wife first, which I learned all the mistakes. When I say practice, it was practice for me. I learned all the things that you shouldn't do as a husband and as a dad, right? So I started very young, as you mentioned. My oldest child was born 2 months to the day before my 18th birthday. So she's born December 2nd and I was born February 2nd. And so very young dad, didn't know, really what I was doing. I make a joke about it took me a long time to figure out what caused that. And truthfully, it's just it didn't know what I was doing and didn't have any plans. And the first couple of years of my life was very much without direction. And, I was working a couple of different jobs and had my own business at the time. And just between that growing kids and a growing family and working, I really just didn't have any really legitimate results. But then, the second kid came along, and then the third kid and the fourth kid. And really not a lot of changes happened in my life. But one day, my wife told me she didn't want to be married to me anymore. And I said, okay, you can leave, but the kids stay here. So I found myself as a single dad of 4 very, very, very small children. And I'm 21 years old and living by myself and 4 kids. And get this, in a 800 square foot double wide manufactured home.
Wow. This was not the story I was expecting today. And I'm so interested to hear more.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, Max, I don't tell this part of my story very often, but I thought a lot about what we wanted to talk about. And I thought it was important that everybody knew.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This is definitely the kind of stuff that you're sharing, but I know that you're also not alone in that there are things that people go through with this, and I want to hear Trevor's take on this also. I'm still waiting to have that moment where I really figure out how to strongly be an adult and you realize how kind of forced it is by life, I think. Trevor?
I want to hear the rest because you have 800 doors right now and we just left off where you're 800 square feet, 4 kids, single dad, broke. So please continue, man.
You're not kidding, Trevor. So I was broke, right? And I was working and taking care of these kids and I had help, right? My mom was around and my sisters are absolutely amazing, but there's no way that I was making enough money to feed all of these people and take care of themselves. So I don't tell anybody this, right? But I'm telling the world today, and I was on welfare. I really was. I was the epitome of trailer trash. I really was. And I lived that way for a year and a half and just didn't have any real direction or any future in my sight. I was just taking care of my kids, spinning my wheels, trying to keep them alive. Really all I was doing. And then New Year's Eve came along 17 years ago. I went to a New Year's Eve party. My mom was with my kids and she's like, go and have a break and go and just relax. And there's this girl at this New Year's Eve party. And I've known her for a long time. We met when my oldest daughter was very, very young. So I'd met her 5 years beforehand, and we just ran in the same circles and never really hung out or anything like that, but we were friendly and friends. And I sat in a bedroom with her and her son because she had a little baby at a New Year's Eve party. So we just kind of sat in the back room by ourselves while everyone else was partying. And we sat there and talked for like 3 hours. And then midnight happened, and I look around and I can't find her anywhere. And turns out she was in the bathroom when the ball dropped, but I got a kiss anyway. And well, I just figured out where she was and went and just
Yeah.
Just, she was hiding in the bathroom, right? Because she didn't want to be the only one not getting a kiss.
Oh, okay.
I found her and I kissed her, and she never left. And she really helped me change the direction of my life. There are all those old sayings about stand behind every great man is a greater woman, or anything like that. And my wife truly gave me something to shoot for, a direction. And when she came into my life, it changed everything that I was doing. And it was the catalyst. She was the catalyst for what I have today.
This is great.
So I know I've met you and your wife, and she's ride or die partner, awesome lady, awesome power couple. What did she do that really provided that direction? Was she like, just kind of had demands that you felt you had to live up to, and or was it just she kind of saw a vision and you shared it with her, or like, what was that like?
I appreciate the question, and it's very important, but it wasn't any of those things necessarily. It was really the belief in me. She saw something in me that I couldn't see, and she has always been my greatest cheerleader. And, she's clapping for me long before I win. And even when I have a struggle or have a failure of some kind, she's right there to encourage me and say, you got this, and you pick it up and you're going to do better next time. And so it's all that belief and that encouragement. And anytime I have an idea, some wives are like, I want you home. I don't want you out there working. I don't want you out there busting your tail or anything like that. She's like encouraging me. Yes, this is a great idea. Go do it. Go and launch. And I'll take care of everything at the home front and make sure that everything's taken care of so that you can be successful. She's absolutely was the thing that changed it around for me. It doesn't have to be even an intimate partner, but a good partner in life that has your back, that believes in you and encourages you and supports you is absolutely life-changing. And that's what she was for me.
I completely echo your statement about that. That's so fantastic that you found each other. I have a very similar feeling with my wife that, sometimes I describe that I felt like a little bit like a lost puppy before I met her. Not really, but I found her, and she had so much encouragement and so much, because I think all of us, we all have that imposter syndrome, every one of us. And, and it's funny because we have that as an internal thing, but then other people see you, and they go, no, you can achieve all these things. You do all these things. Like when you're telling me the story, Senate, I look at you and I go, never would have thought this podcast would have started the way it did with this very real, raw experience that you have. And when you say your wife saw this, I feel like she saw what we already all did and does. And helps you. And I feel like, that's been something that, I hope that a lot of men are able to find, for anyone who's listening, I do think it's out there. There were a lot of guys who I met prior to getting married. And Trevor, I do want to hear your take on this, who kind of advised me not to get married. A lot of older guys, a little bitter, they're in their 50s, late 40s, kind of have this kind of offhand comment, don't ever get married, and it wasn't like 100%, but I had some guys who would kind of say that. And it's so funny because I couldn't have felt different. I just felt like, it was such a difference with what I found with my wife. And, I'm so happy to hear that, regarding yours. Trevor, what are your thoughts?
It's a great example of just how freaking important it is to have that positive energy in your household. Just like a key element of success. I've been in relationships, Senate, I imagine that your practice wife, like you said, there was things that you could have done better. I'm sure there was, right? That we all could have done better. I've personally been in relationships, and I imagine you have too, where there's a lot of criticism rather than support. Why did you do this? Why would you do that? Why would you pursue that? Where's your head at? Type of mentality, right? Stick with the safe and the known, not the risky and the unknown and scary type of thing. And then I've had a relationship that I'm currently in now with my wife is just like my shotgun rider. She's just down like whatever I'm going to do, she's about it. She's with me, and it makes a huge difference in your performance. When your partner at home is not supporting you, then that's always on your mind. It's like holding you back from really achieving your full potential. So it's super freaking important, man. And if so the guys listening, if you don't have that, you deserve it, and it's out there, then you should go get it.
That's right.
I would add to that. I would say deserve it, and I would say also work for it. I think a personal focus of self-improvement, definitely is something that, matters. One thing about, the previous relationships I had is, one thing that I just, every relationship I had prior to my wife, whether we broke up due to my fault or the other individual's fault, every one of them made me better. They did. And it was a recognition of, how to improve. And, in that comment you kind of said where you kind of felt, and you remind me of your wording, but you just said you didn't have guidance when you were kind of young.
Yeah.
Or there was you please correct me on the term, but you have said kind of there was you felt without direction.
Yeah, without direction. Yeah, exactly.
I felt like that, often. I think that's generally a really common feeling. Is just, where do we go? What do we do? How do we navigate, life? And a lot of the hardships with, breakups, unfortunately, carve that a little bit better. And then, you find the person you're supposed to be with, that it really makes it significantly. Once you have direction, you can dig in. Once you have direction, it's easy to start doing the work. It's easy to start, or easier at least to start, I'll say just putting one foot in front of the other because you have a course that you're going forward towards. And yeah, I can echo that definitely with feeling like it takes a long time to really, find that true focus.
Yeah. I love the way this conversation's going and what you guys said about, that every single person in the world deserves a person like that in their life. I would say that's the thing that I learned. One of the biggest things I learned from my first wife, right, was that I deserve to have the relationship that I want and that I wanted, and I did have a lot of that criticism and those type of things, but really what it came down to was we just weren't on the same page. We weren't going the same direction, and I don't talk anything bad about her. Like, I'm very grateful for her, right? She gave me 4 amazing children, and I'm very grateful that that relationship happened because I'm a better human because of it. And it gave me those 4 amazing gifts. But yeah, definitely every single person on here deserves that relationship. But I also want to know that it's not just magic, right? It's not, you don't just meet the right person and it's just like the snap of the finger and everything is great. My wife, Carrie, and I, we work on a relationship on a regular basis. Still today, we've been together 17 years. We're very happily married and we see a marriage coach once a week. Not because there's anything wrong, not because we're on rocky terms or anything like that, but because we know it's good now, but it can be better.
When you started doing that, was there a reason that you started doing that? What was the impetus to go see a marriage coach?
Well, this is our 3rd one we've had over the course of 17 years, and there was one time when it was bad, right? We were kind of struggling and we were arguing a little more than we wanted to argue. And, we just weren't syncing up. And I said, well, I love you. And she said, I love you. And I said, well, I want to be married to you. She said, I want to be married to you. And I said, well, let's solve this. And so that time it was to solve the problem. The second time we were going through literal seasons, like winter is a struggle for us. I live in Idaho. It's gets very cold in Idaho and I don't do winter sports. I don't snowboard. I don't ski. I don't snow machine. So January just sucks for us. And so the second time we literally were just in seasonal depression, both of us. And it was like, well, let's do something about it. Let's see somebody that can lift us both up. And that worked. And we did that for a couple of years. And now this time we've been seeing this gal for almost 2 years, somewhere in that range. And it was literally, hey, exactly what I said a minute ago. Our relationship is good, but I think it can be better. Do you think it can be better? Yeah. Okay. Let's make it better. There's a really good book, Jim Collins, I think, is in Good to Great. And he wrote, good is the enemy of great, and so you don't want to be comfortable.
Within those things, is there anything you can share that's, an encouraging thing for other people to do within their marriages that are a benefit? And, simple things. My wife and I need to take more vacation. She's due here within another months. So, we're a little homebound for the time being, but that's been the biggest one that's on our list to do as soon as we can, is to start taking, vacations. And someone recommended to me, that we have to go on a vacation where we don't bring the kids. They said 1 day, if not two. And the reason was that even if you do a date night, you still come home and you're still kind of coming home to take care of the kids. Is there anything, and I'm only giving an example, within the coaching that you're getting, what have been some of the things you're able to share that are recommended or things people can implement?
Well, I've got 3 or 4 things that come to mind in no particular order. But what you said just a minute ago about, taking a vacation without the kids, I think something along those lines is very important. Some people may not be able to afford an actual full-blown vacation, but, even if it's go get a hotel room across town and turn your cell phones off, you've got to do something to make sure that you're working on your relationship first. Because here's the thing, your kids will grow up and then they'll leave. And who's left? Your spouse, right? So you need to make sure and prioritize that relationship. Because I'm in that stage right now. 2 of my 5 children have left home, and the other 2 are grown-ups, and they're basically roommates. I see them once a week, and my relationship with my wife's all I have left. So if you don't take care of that and you don't prioritize that relationship, then you're going to have problems. There's a lot of people who get divorced after the kids leave because they don't have anything to be together for anymore. So in my opinion, that relationship with your spouse is more important than any other. Second thing is you need to have a vision and you need to have values. If you don't know your long-term vision in life and you don't have long-term goals and you can't tell someone what your values are, first of all, get that. Second of all, make sure your spouse has that. Third of all, make sure they're aligned. If you're going up through life and your spouse is growing in one direction and you're growing in another direction, there's going to become a chasm between you. So you've got to be going in the same direction. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be doing the exact same business or, anything like that, but you have to have those goals, those visions, and that direction and talk about them and make sure you're on the same page. Because Max, you just said you want to go on a vacation. You said once a year without the kids.
This was just something that someone recommended. They said, take a night off and make sure that it's somewhere where, you're not still kind of on duty was kind of their, like a dinner out is good. But, if you can go like you kind of said, a night away, that was kind of their recommendation. So you just got to make sure you make that a priority.
Okay. Well, and I agree with all of that. I was using it as I was trying to come up with an example, right? Say you personally want to go on a vacation to Europe once a year, right? And your wife is a homebody and never wants to leave town. Okay. Neither one of those things are wrong, but it's not going to work out very well. See what I'm saying?
Make sure they're aligned.
Yeah.
Make sure
exactly.
they're aligned or get them aligned.
And then the next thing about, those goals and visions, you've got to make sure that no topic is off limits and you need to talk about everything. So there's a lot of things in life that human beings don't like to talk about. No one likes to talk about politics unless you're a political pundit. A lot of people don't like to talk about religion unless you're a religious figurehead. Most people, even husband and wife, don't like to talk about sex. But you've got to be able to talk about all of those things. And I would say, especially the sex part, right? Talk about it. What do you like? What do you don't like? What do you not want me to do? What do you want to do? Right? Now, I'm not saying that having sex isn't good, but if you're not talking about it when you're not in the bedroom, you're not going to be able to fulfill either one of your needs.
That's some true advice. All of it.
So, Senate, what is it like now with your coach? Like, what does your coach do or have you guys do? What are those sessions like?
We start every session with just a check-in. How's it been since we last talked? Have there been any problems, any stress or anything like that? So the first 5 or even 10 minutes sometimes is literally just kind of an update and just kind of a decompress icebreaker moment type of thing. Once in a great while, we'll have what we call a stress reducing conversation. So something major happened in Carrie and I's relationship or in our life in general that we need to make the time to talk about. And so we'll do that in a pretty scripted way, right? So there's a script that we use and a certain modality of language that we use in that stress reducer conversation. But at this point now, it's most of the time where she's teaching us new skills or coming up with new conversations that we can have together and helping us explore parts of our psyche that we don't normally explore. Let me give you 2 different examples as a contrary points, right? Well, 3 actually come to mind. So we use a thing called the Gottman app. It's a free app, by the way. And they have these cards, and one of them is called a love map. And literally this card comes up and it's a guided conversation about, when do you feel most loved? Another one in that same Gottman app was, what do you need in life that you're lacking? And you need to come up with an answer. Like you sit there. So one spouse asks the question, the other spouse, you sit there till you come up with something. And it might be, a cup of coffee, or what you're really looking for though is something deeper, right? Like, last thing comes to mind that my wife said to me, I just want you to touch me more, but not sexually, nothing like that. Just put your hand on my shoulder, touch my hand more, stuff like that. Oh, we never would have talked about that if we weren't in that session. And then the third example that comes to mind, sometimes we explore deeper psychological things in our life. Like we talk about problems from our childhood and, things like that, to let the other one in more and to let them in deeper and, help us understand why one of us acts the way the other one does, something like that.
So you've been so open with us. When you were young, coming up to this, was your family open, or was this a skill you had to learn within these sessions?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say my family was very open when I was growing up. Not that we were not allowed to talk about emotions or anything like that, but we just didn't. I grew up with a single mom. My dad left when I was 4, and I had 2 sisters. So I was actually the youngest of 3. We were just so busy and always go. Like we never had time to really sit and talk about feelings or emotions or anything like that.
Trevor, you have any questions? I'm going to move on to some of the business stuff, but we could unpack so much in this from right now. Do you have anything before I jump into some of the business things?
I guess just, what is the best way to start looking for a marriage coach? How did you do it? How did you find a marriage coach?
Yeah, I have answers. I'll tell you what I did first, and then I'll tell you some things that I probably would do different, right? So literally the very first one that we did, we just kind of opened the phone book and said, found marriage counselor, right? That's what we did the first time. It worked out okay. It was fine. But it just wasn't we didn't think it through. This last time we really worked on it, and Carrie, my wife, did the majority of the work. She went to our insurance company's website and pulled up all of the providers that our insurance company was contracted with, and started filtering them out, based on, different preferences. We decided that we wanted to have a female specifically, and so that really narrowed it down. And then we wanted someone similar age to us, because we wanted them to be able to relate to what we were going through and that type of thing. And then she called them. She called each one of them and just learned about what their practice was. And she came down to 3 recommendations and said, let me pick out of the last 3.
Love it, man.
Yeah, this is great. What I love that you said earlier was, do you want to stay married? Yes. Or do I love you? Yes. Do you love me? Yes. Do you want to make this work? Yes. And then you guys had this kind of, after that was the commitment saying, hey, we wanted to make everything happen. And, and I love hearing that because it goes through, the fact that you guys just kind of said, hey, we're sure of this part. The other thing is, maybe more of a active task, but, there was 2 people who were committed, which is something I think once you're actually married, you kind of get more than when you're, single or even in the boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. There's another level to the marriage part that I think is hard for a lot of people who aren't married to kind of grasp, actually. And I think you kind of nailed it on the head right there with that one.
Yeah, totally agree there. There's so many people that think that marriage is easy, right? So like we watch all these Disney movies with the happily ever after. It's really not. It takes work, right? You're 2 imperfect human beings and you have to practice at it. You have to work at it.
Wow. This is such great information.